Good morning, my fellow worshippers of the Dark Gods. I'm back, ready to continue my series on the updated CSM Codex. Last time, we went over the elites and sadly lackluster troop choices, but today we're gonna cover the heavy support category, which still contains, as of the time this video is posted, G-Dubs' big oopsie, the big oof of this update. So without further ado, we're gonna start off with the Havocs. Havocs were already a pretty great unit, and now they've seen some serious changes. They've received an extra point of toughness, and a rule that allows them to move and shoot heavy weapons without a penalty. These changes are definitely impressive, however, we can no longer take extra bolter Havocs just to provide some ablative wounds to our Havoc squads now. And each model now costs 14 points. Also, one minor but odd change is that the Havoc aspiring champion, the sergeant of the squad, now comes with a default flamer as a weapon, although you can still replace it with a bolter or combi bolter if you want to. Havocs have also gained a new weapon option. We all know and love the new Reaper chain gun, which shoots 8 heavy bolter shots at 24 inches at a cost of 20 points a gun. Now, Havocs are awesome, honestly. Changes or no changes, Havocs are a great way to bring heavy weapons to bear, while having a lot of CSM support options accessible to them. With a new weapon, as well as the new Devastation Battery Specialist Detachment, Havocs have been made even more important to our armies, since we can now provide them with a reroll to their ones to wound, and a chance to shoot at the enemy after the first movement phase, in addition to all the other bullshit we can stock on top of them. Now we're gonna move on to our second heavy support choice. You know, you've been waiting for it. It's the oopsie. The Obliterators. Now, why do I keep calling these boys a fuck up? Well, they got a massive buff to their stat line, since they're now toughness 5, 4 wounds apiece with 3 melee attacks and 6 shots from their flesh metal guns. They even gained a decent melee weapon and support options with a Master of Possession or the Devastation Battery. The fuck up here is that Games Workshop has absolutely forgotten to change their points value. Now that's right, my heretics, as of our updated codex, before any errata hits to correct this, you can still field these new and improved Obliterators at 65 points a model. Well, this misprint also means that we need to field Obliterator squads as 3 model squads. That doesn't change the fact that they will be absolutely broken. You can field so many of these death machines that you can pretty much build a list around nothing but Obliterators and support characters and see excellent results. However, make no mistake, this is certainly a misprint, and will be corrected, most likely very soon. So if you want to grief your local players for a bit, whip out those Obliterators and smash anyone that opposes you while you still can. On a more realistic note, after these get fixed, they will still be pretty damn good, albeit a little overcosted, as they can benefit from Devastation Battery, as well as the good old combo of Veterans of the Long War and Endless Cacophony. All in all, Obliterators are pretty good, and will likely see a lot of play as surgical strike units, but after they get fixed, they will cost a lot of points. Alright, now we've covered what is pretty much the best part of our heavy support, but there's still a lot of units in here to go over. So let's move on to our tanks. We got Vindicators. Now, Vindicators are bad. Like all CSM tanks, Vindicators suffer greatly from the lack of a rule similar to Grinding Advance, which would allow them to shoot twice while they respect a certain limitation. As it is, the Vindicator will set you back 125 points while fielding nothing but a Demolisher cannon, which will most of the time shoot D3 shots. That's rank 10, AP minus 3 and D6 damage. If you shoot this at a squad of 5 or more models, you can get D6 shots, but why would you ever shoot this at infantry? Furthermore, the model will suffer a penalty to its hit rolls if it moves and shoots. Therefore, it will mostly shoot its cannon on 4s. And considering its range is only 24 inches, you gotta move a lot. They're a disappointing unit. Very disappointing, but they do have one redeeming quality. Namely, their Line Breaker Bombardment stratagem, which allows 3 of these bad boys to shoot a huge mortal wound bomb. The way it works is you pay 1 command point, you select a certain point, a spot on the map, hitting units in 3 inches of the selected spot. This can be used after the advance, and the range for it is 24 inches, just like their weapons. For just 1 command point, it's a pretty great answer to castle up players like, say, a Tau gunline, or maybe even the Imperial Guard. Now, from one bad unit to another, we got the Chaos Predator tanks. These, just like the Vindicators, suffer greatly from the lack of a grinding advance-like rule, but unlike the Vindicators, they don't suffer as much from their move and shoot heavy weapons penalty, since they carry very long-range weapons on them. Whether you equip a Predator with a twin last cannon or a Predator autocannon, the model will cost 130 points, and then you can add sponson weapons if you want, in the form of either heavy bolters or last cannons. The autocannon is interesting, with 2d3 shots and strength 7, 3 damage, but only minus 1 AP, while the last cannon we all know and love is a safe 2 shots that have a lot of damage potential, when you don't roll a 1 or a 2. The issue with Predators is that they don't really have a lot of damage potential. They don't have any flexibility in their weapons option, and they aren't resilient either. They aren't fast, and they aren't that shooty. It just really looks like they added the Predators to our Codex so that we have a tank in there. It doesn't do anything particularly well, but like the Vindicators, there's a stratagem that makes them much better. Now, if you use the kill shot stratagem, you can buff 3 of these that are in close proximity to one another to add 1 to their wound and damage rolls if they attack monsters or vehicles during the shooting phase this was used in. Just like the Vindicators, there is pretty much no incentive to ever use one of these competitively, but I personally own 4 of them and enjoy having occasional tank battles with local players, so hey, don't let a unit being bad sap your enjoyment of the game. And since we're covering bad units, we might as well cover the king of terrible CSM units, the Land Raider. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. The poor Land Raider is an absolutely shockingly bad unit. Even though its points cost was reduced in the last chapter approved, the default Land Raider will still set you back an abominable 297 points. They're semi-tough, with 8 toughness and 16 wounds, and they can transport up to 10 infantry models, or 5 Terminator models, or 3 Obliterators if you want them to, I don't know. Traditionally, a Land Raider would transport Terminators into the heart of an enemy force while disregarding most weapons fired at it. Currently, however, a Land Raider can even be wounded by a lasgun, albeit not easily, and the poor Terminators are absolute trash. Just so you can picture how terrible a Land Raider is, I can field the most of its firepower with a Predator, for almost half the cost, and that isn't a good unit. Beyond this, there isn't any unit that the Land Raider would transport really well. If you're gonna want possessed, you want 20-man squads, and lighter 10-man squads fit much better into cheap, quick rhinos. Well, Terminators have no real reason to take a transport when they can just deep strike. Unlike the other 2 bad units I've already talked about, there's no stratagem that makes a Land Raider good, and no real reason to ever use one. I personally own a Land Raider Proteus, which, trust me, is even worse, and I very rarely use it for narrative purposes at that. Moving on to our demon engines now, we're going to talk about the Forge Fiends. Now these guys are slightly less terrible, and at the cheapest, armed with 2 Hades autocannons and its demon jaws, a Forge Fiend will set you back about 148 points. Sure, that's quite a lot of points for only 8 autocannon shots, even though they have a bit higher strength, and considering it only hits on 4-ups, things aren't stellar. With access to the new Lord Discordant, however, that does buff its shooting up to 3-up, and you can still replace its jaws with a nice plasma cannon that deals D3 damage. Hell, you can replace the autocannons too, making these at least decent fire support. Like all demon engines, the Demon Forge stratagem, which allows it to reroll all failed hits and wounds for only 1 command point, makes the Forge Fiends a lot nastier, and, well, honestly, the models look really great. And of course, since we're talking about the Fiends, I'm also gonna mention the melee cousins, the Molar Fiends. Molar Fiends equipped with Lasher Tendrils, and trust me, you don't want the Magma Cutters, they suck. One will cost you 132 points, and, well, they do suffer from the usual melee issue of how the fuck do I reach the enemy? This is greatly alleviated by the addition of the Lord Discordant and the Soul Forge pack. With just that, a Mauler Fiend can move 12 inches, advance d6, then charge, or, if warp timed by a sorcerer, you can pretty much guarantee that it touches an enemy. And once it does so, the Lord Discordant will make it hit easier with its 10 attacks. Honestly, of these two, I would certainly choose the Mauler Fiend, as it synergizes much better with the recent additions to Chaos, and it can still benefit from Demon Forge. Further down the road of our heavy supports, we have the newly added Tick Demon Spider Monster thing, the Venom Crawler. You don't get to change its loadout, and it costs 130 points as it is. For that cost, you get a rather fragile walker with decent melee and actually impressive firepower, all things considered. You can buff its Excruciator cannons by increasing the Venom Crawler's strength, and that gets real scary real quick as strength 10 shooting is pretty massive. The unit itself is quite offensive and will work well with the aforementioned Lord Discordant and, of course, the Soulforge pack, while it will also buff the Master of Possession, which you will want to keep around to make the demon engines overall more powerful, or tankier at least. For what it's worth, the Venom Crawler also has a higher healing potential even than most demon engines, so if someone just chips away at its health without capitalizing on it, that might come into play. Overall, it's a usable unit, honestly. Nothing stellar, but nothing too hard either, and I'll personally be using mine a lot. I love the way it looks. And now, for the last, and certainly worst of the units in here, we have my favorite demon engine of all time, the Defiler. Now, I honestly don't even hate it. I know, I'm well aware of how bad he is, with every weapon loadout being highly confused about its role on a battlefield. I mean, the Defiler really doesn't know what it wants. It wants to melee, it wants to shoot, it wants to move, but god damn it, he sucks at every single one of these things. It's a unit you can use in many ways, and he's very likely to disappoint in every single one. But god damn it, I love my Defiler. I personally field mine with a Reaper autocannon, a Havoc launcher, his default battle cannon, his claws, and a combi bolter, and he only costs 138 points this way. And barely ever does anything, even with Demon Forge, but he gets fielded very often as he's kind of a mascot for my army, and his name is Clarence. Clarence the Defiler. On a more serious note, with Lord Discord, and of course, the Soulforge pack, a Defiler can be a bit scary. They're fairly hard to kill, and if you can get them to actually shoot decently while moving towards the enemy, they'll have to become a target of some priority to them before they lumber into the enemy with actual scary melee attacks besides their okay shooting. Now, that's all that I have for today. I gotta go pack up Clarence for a fight against local Blood Angels. So, are you planning to abuse the misprinted Obliterators? Looking to include any new demon engines into your armies? Let me know in the comment section below. And make sure the Inquisition doesn't spot you, and see you guys next time.